Welcome back, everyone. Today is unfortunately a reshoot. Normally I would have live keyed this and green screened my background in and everything, but it looks like because the items that I'm talking about are green, these actually came out kind of a sparkly gray, and the footage was terrible. Unfortunately, that means that what I would have told you were some brand new Hercules bits and Milwaukee bits aren't actually new, but they've also seen the same exact wear because they both got used in the same comparison, which was just driving a handful of screws in. So what we're here to talk about is I recently purchased the Ryobi multi-head screwdriver kit FVD51K. K being kit. Presumably the FVD51 won't include a battery. I don't really anticipate seeing that available for retail, at least here in the US, because this is like $39 at Home Depot right now. I have seen the driver itself with the head sold separately and the battery sold separately in the UK at least. So I know this is available internationally. Cool. But I don't anticipate seeing a ton of that here. And the reason that I bought this kit is because this is using Ryobi's new USB-Lithium platform, which replaced my older Tek4 platform. And what I'm really hoping, and I'm still on the fence for this about this, is to replace my old Tek4 driver that you can see has seen better days. And I actually modified to take the new USB lithium cells because my Tek4 charger died and my Tek4 cells weren't in great shape anyway. Unfortunately, this isn't quite perfect. As you can hear, I just put that in there and it's not starting. Some of the cells have a little different tolerance than the others as far as the pad location is concerned. I haven't had an issue with any of the actual USB lithium tools, but I have had issues with my modified Tek4 stuff. There we go. So that's a freshly charged cell there. The kit here for the FVD51K includes the driver itself, which is a fantastic little multi-head driver. So it comes with this low clearance head so that you can get in tighter to odd angles, and we'll measure some of that. It comes with a right angle head for also getting in places you just normally couldn't. And these are all indexable, so this has this spline all the way around that's got seems to be like 20 possible positions, which should be plenty. And then the kit also includes battery, which I just charged this as well, and you can see, unlike what I just fought with my modified Tek4, no issues there. We get 2 rails of bits that I'm not disappointed with. These are just standard Ryobi bits. They're fine. They're nothing special. They're not the new diamond coated ones or the impact ones, but it includes a selection that's a bit disappointing. So we get 2 posi drive bits, which some people seem to like, but I personally can't stand because I don't deal with posi drive fasteners. They just end up getting grabbed when I really wanted a Phillips and then stripping something out. 2 Torx, 1 hex, 4 different Phillips drivers, and then a slotted. And the 4 Phillips drivers are also another spot where it includes, what is this, like 3 number 1 Phillips, 1 number 2. Ideally that should be like 1 number 1, 2 2s, and a 3. But anyway, they're whatever. They're the included bits. We're not going to use those for this comparison. To put both devices on equal footing, we're going to use some Milwaukee bit kits that I purchased. And where's the other one? There's the other one. Feature-wise, I think my biggest disappointment design-wise is that this is a single speed tool. This is a 0 to 200. The old Tek4 was a 0 to 200 or 0 to 600 on high speed. So we got a high and a low, but which is great. This we just get one speed. That's it. And I'm pretty sure, either due to the age of my Tek4 or the improvements in the new technology, the 0 to 200 on this does seem to outperform the 0 to 200 on the Tek4, but the Tek4 has more torque behind it, which we'll get to later. Dimensionally, the new driver is going to fit a couple of places the old one can't. Even without the new heads, this is 4.57 inches, which is 116 millimeters, and the old one is actually slightly too long to fit in the caliper, which is 6.14. We'll call that 6.2 inches, which is about 160 millimeters. Neither one of these is big, especially next to something like a 18-volt drill, but the old one is bigger. So, first thing I want to do is just sink a couple of fasteners into this 2x4. I'll put the time that this takes to do all three on a time-stamped counter. I've got some 1 5/8, which I don't remember what that is in millimeters. We'll just check it real quick. 30 millimeter fine thread sheetrock screws, which normally you'd use coarse thread sheetrock screws. You can use fines. Either way, these are kind of the thing that these would be expected to do, but not exactly. So drivers like these, you'd normally anticipate using them for putting together flat pack furniture like you'd purchase at IKEA. You can use them to handle picture hanging and things like that. So you might be expected to drill a hole in plaster. You're not necessarily going to do a whole ton of construction with them, and although you might expect to use them with a sheetrock screw, you're not going to put in 200 of them. You're going to put in 2 or 3. All right, and we've got some sawdust. There we go. That's lovely. Come on. All right, there we go. I love this vacuum vise. When it works, it's enough to pick up this bench, but any sort of suction device doesn't work well with obstructions. This one's Essential Machinery. I'll include a link to, I think you can get the same exact thing on Amazon from a few different vendors. So for our baseline, actually, one feature I do want to point out before we get to that is that the chucks on these are very different. The old Tek4 has a mechanical locking chuck. I can probably put enough force to take that out if I really reef on it, but it's not going anywhere under normal operation. The new USB-Lithium driver, I don't even think has a magnet in this. I believe the actual heads do. So on that note, I may be better off just using the low profile head in general, but we're not there yet. So let's drive some screws, and I'm going to start with the Tek4 on high speed for 3 fasteners. I take that back. High speed's great, but we're not getting the fastener all the way in. Well, that's better, but you can see that these are not quite flush with the wood. So let's try the Tek4 on low speed. Which is quite a bit more tedious, but that is fully embedded in our example 2x4. And that will do it every single time. And this is actually kind of what I'm used to with this tool, using it around the house to hang things, using it for work. It's not atypical for me to start a fastener or something on high speed and then switch to low speed to just nudge it in that last bit. Let's see how the USB-Lithium does with its single speed setting. So that's interesting. Let's put a little more force behind that. So it doesn't want to sink them quite as far into the board, which we've actually started to split. So I'm going to move over a little. Yeah, it's not willing to embed them quite as deep, but it is getting them pretty close. Okay, not bad. Screws like that are representative of most of what you do with this type of thing. Like I said, flat pack furniture is going to have pre-drilled holes that you're sinking fasteners into, picture hanging, that type of stuff. I use them a lot working in racks and inside rack mount systems. Typically, you know, unbolt the chassis from the rack, take it out, or what's the word I'm going to use here? To, you know, put patch panels in, switches in, that type of stuff. Take case screws out. So this is interesting. Let's go ahead and pre-drill a couple of holes. And these are 1/8 inch bits, which is pretty much the maximum you'd want to ever drill with one of these. I've used larger bits. I've used 3/16 in mine pretty often. And I've used 1/4 once or twice, but it's really not a drill and not built for that. But the Tek4's got a high speed setting. Let's put some holes in. Not bad. So, a high-speed setting definitely helps it out, making a pilot hole. And we'll try the USB-Lithium. Well, that's concerning. So the lack of any sort of magnet or retention mechanism in the included hex did not help it there. Let's try the offset driver. no, even the magnet in the offset driver is not enough to help pull the drill bit back out. That is disappointing, but not the end of the world. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure this mechanism is the same one they use on the existing FVD50, which is using, I'm pretty sure the same motor that's in this, just with the lack of changeable heads. So that's a big miss, and I don't really know what the solution to that is. Maybe a locking ring like you see inside some of these bit holders as I throw bits on the floor, because I can take one of these bit holders, put it in the Tek4, put a bit in, and then well, that did better, but not perfect. That's interesting. These have a fairly strong magnet in them, and I thought they had a locking ring, but I'm incorrect. They do make bit holders with locking retention lugs that actually look more like that. Well, we've made some holes. I've got one other thing that I want to try with these first, and then I want to get some clearance measurements, and that is I've got some number 10 by 3 construction screws, which are absolutely huge to ask a tool like this to do, but since we pre-drilled all those holes, I'm going to ask it to do it. So if I grab that, and I think these are that's a T20, T25. We're just going to try the Tek4 on high speed with our first pilot drill here and see where we get. All right, we're out of steam, low speed. Not quite sunk in, but not bad. Way slower than you'd be able to do it with any, well, not any, but most cordless drills. And let's try the new USB-Lithium driver. Interesting. Okay, so the USB-Lithium driver got most of the way there and then stopped itself. There's some sort of overcurrent or torque limiting measurement in there. Not bad, but not what I had really hoped for. So there's all that. Let's get this out of the way now. For normal drilling and driving tasks, I'm not going to say disappointed, but definitely just a bit surprised. The new USB-Lithium driver is smaller on every front compared to the Tek4. However, this Tek4 driver is over a decade old, and as near as I can tell, these are using almost the same style brushed DC motor. There's been no improvement there from a technological side, and it looks like all of the improvements in this are pretty much the interchangeable heads. And that's actually been something I've noticed a few times out of the USB-Lithium lineup in general. And I've got quite a few things for this lineup. I've got the rotary tool, one of the flashlights, compressor, and what was the other one that I got? I think it was a second flashlight. But anyway, so I've been picking these up as they go on sale because I did modify my existing tool to work with this platform, but there just doesn't seem to be the same attention to detail that there was with the old tools. This is the Tek4 driver. This has a drill mode. This has various chuck settings. I mean, I don't even know if there's enough torque in setting 1 on the chuck to actually put one of those screws in the wood at all. In fact, let's try it just for the sake of amusement. We've got the chuck on 1, so we're no longer in drill, theoretically. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that you want when you don't want to damage a piece of glass or acrylic as you're installing it. Because that's going to go in till it hits a certain amount of resistance and then just stop. And I wish I had my digital torque adapter to tell you exactly what that was. But the multi-head driver, which is patterned after things like TTI's Milwaukee M12 install driver, which does have a chuck, completely misses that feature. And I think that, in addition to the lack of a better locking chuck, really lets this down. The weak motor I could overlook, but the lack of a clutch seems like a complete miss. And that doesn't make this as a bad tool, it just makes me go, this is 40 bucks. I probably paid $40 or $50 for this when this was new a decade ago, which I understand is, you know, inflation makes this a more expensive tool now, but why isn't something like this on the USB-Lithium platform? The power source hasn't changed. The Tek4 batteries were just 18650s inside a shell, just like the new ones. In fact, those were even simpler. There we go. Because those had to use an external charger. The USB-Lithium cells have all the charging mechanisms built into them, which is fantastic. I can charge this with the same charger that I charge my phone with. And the more advanced USB-Lithium cells, which I'm actually a bit disappointed this didn't come with. It did come with one of the nicer ones with the battery test indicator built in. This is what the O2, yeah, FVB02, as opposed to the FVB01, which doesn't include that indicator button, but it's not the O3, which is a 3 amp hour battery that supports USB-C current out. So the last thing I want to do, because this is actually an advantage to the smaller driver, is that this is going to get in a few places I can't. And this is one of the things that made me purchase it, is there have been times where I can't get my 18 volt hammer drill or even the Tek4 here inside where I need to drill a hole or put a screw. Oh. Gearbox 2, back on drill. There we go. So how close can I get to the center of the Phillips? That is 0.94 inches. We'll say 0.9 inches for the Tek4 and 0.79 for the new USB-Lithium driver. But that's not as close as it can get. We can get closer with the right angle attachment and do some weird stuff at the same time. I mean, I have needed exactly that for when there was an object here and I just could not get in there with anything bigger than a stubby screwdriver. All right. Survey says 0.49 inches. And we can go one step closer. That, wow. That basically has the head of the screw against the board, and the center line of the Phillips puts us, come on, 0.2 inches. I can't do that with any other tool I own. In fact, I think that might be closer than the M12 installation driver gets, just due to the reduced size of the rest of the tool. Okay, so where does that leave me with for a conclusion? This is the new tool. This is the new battery platform, the new technology, all the new stuff with the interchangeable heads and all that stuff. And it comes in a nice enough case. There's a little blow molded case that you can put some bits behind it. A little let down with the selection of included bits, but that's basically, I would almost rather they have just not included them, to be honest. But that's basically a given on anything like that these days. Versus, this is the old tool. This is what's been in my tool bag for the past several years. And the only time it wasn't in my tool bag was when the charger got ruined. And I, left it on a shelf there for a while trying to decide, do I buy a new Tek4 charger? And the answer finally came in the, Ryobi released this, and I said, oh, I'll modify it to take the new batteries. Which isn't perfect, but it works. The change between the Tek4 driver, which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned, this is the HP53L, versus the FVD51 is, I don't know, the new one's not outright better and it's not outright worse. And I don't think it's going to make it into my everyday bag. I think this is going to live somewhere where I can grab it quickly when I need to get into a weird place, but it's not going to do what I really wanted it to do, which is live in my tool bag day to day and make it so that the Tek4 driver is no longer a necessity. It doesn't have as much torque, it's not quite as quick at some tasks, and the things that it's better at are things that I need, that I have needed. I have been in tight quarters where a tool like this is exactly the solution, but the lack of the locking bit holder, the lack of grunt, the lack of the chuck is actually a bit surprising, or not, lack of the chuck, the lack of a clutch is a bit surprising as well. Just make it overall a less compelling tool to have there every day. More often, this is small enough already and has power enough that I don't go grab the 18-volt hammer drill. I really wish this had actually been just a little more torquey, even if it was slower. If I had a choice between, say, a 0 to 300 and 0 to 100 gearbox that was slower but tuned for more power out, and a clutch with a locking holder, even if the locking holder wasn't integral to the tool, if it was integrated into one of the attachments, I think it would have been a slam dunk. and I don't think most of those changes are outside of Ryobi's capability to hit, even if they probably would have raised the price point. Like I said, I realize that in we'll say $10, even if this was the same price on the shelf, you know, that probably makes this a $60, $70 tool today, which I probably wouldn't pay $70 for it today, because its battery platform doesn't exist. But, you know, at 40, this is compelling, but not perfect. Much more than that, I wouldn't buy it, and I think it does a disservice to the platform to not properly showcase what the batteries are capable of. This is still cool. I'm not going to return it, but it probably isn't going to help USB-Lithium's perceived value. With all that said, as always, I'd like to thank Electrix for providing our closing themes. I'd like to thank anyone who helps support Pocketables, either by donating directly or supporting us on Patreon for doing so. I'd like to invite anyone who has any questions about these to either ask us in the comments or join us on Discord. It's stuff like that that really helps me pick what we're going to cover next. And finally, thank you for watching.